Hi, and welcome to Fast Casual's first ever virtual chef challenge. I'm Cherryh Cansler, editor of Fast Casual, and I'm so excited to introduce you to 3 Fast Casual chefs who have been working on a few plant-based recipes while out during quarantine. Before we get to that, though, I want to introduce you to my co-host, Mason Grassfield, Innovation Manager of Meatless Farm. How's it going today, Mason?
I'm doing very well. Thanks so much for asking.
So Mason, what exactly does an Innovation Manager do?
Basically, I have to keep my eye on the big picture and very, very small picture at the same time. It's quite a great job.
Well, we really appreciate you being here, Mason, so let's get to the good stuff.
Absolutely, Cherryh. Happy to be here and see some of the delicious ways your audience can incorporate more meatless items into their menus. I'm sure you know that plant-based proteins are booming right now. In the US alone, sales of meat alternatives have jumped over 200% compared to the same time last year. And according to a recent survey of 2,000 people we carried out with one poll, over a quarter of Americans are now more likely to choose a plant-based meat option at restaurants and chains than they were before the pandemic.
So obviously restaurants need to come up with more meatless options for the menu, but that's not always easy for chefs who aren't quite used to that. So that's why we've partnered with our 3 chefs today who are going to show us a few things.
Yeah, so Meatless Farm shipped each chef our meat-free ground and asked them to create either a breakfast, lunch, dinner, or appetizer option. And what they came up with looks incredible.
All right, it's time to meet our chefs. First up is Kasim Hardaway, the head of Culinary R&D and Marketing Director for Cultivare Greens Grains in Kansas City, which also happens to be my hometown. Secondly, we have Janene Holig, the head chef and COO of Minnesota-based Hot Indian Foods. And our third chef is McCloud of Tocaya, Organica in California.
Hi, my name is Kasim Hardaway and welcome to my kitchen. I'm the chef behind the culinary research and development for Cultivare Greens and Grains. It's a fast casual salad and grain bowl concept in Overland Park, Kansas. In addition to that, I am a food photographer, food stylist, and recipe developer. And today I have a super simple, super easy recipe made using the Meatless Farm Company's meat-free ground. It's like ground beef, but completely plant-based. So today I will be using that in a quinoa-based bowl, high protein, and it's paired with kimchi, red cabbage, cucumbers, and then the meat-free ground that's been glazed in a sweet sesame and soy sauce. It is delicious, and I can't share my top secret recipe. I'm kidding. Today I'm going to be walking you through that glaze. It's actually only 4 ingredients. It's soy sauce, honey, sesame oil, and rice wine vinegar. So without further ado, let's cook. So the first thing that you want to do for this recipe is brown your meat-free ground. That kind of rhymes. And you want to follow the package instructions by the Meatless Farms Company. Really make sure that ground is crisp before we add in our soy sesame glaze. So while it's finishing browning, I'm going to show you the 4 ingredients to make this glaze. So here we have a 1/4 cup of honey, 1 tablespoon of rice wine vinegar, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and 1 tablespoon of sesame oil. So you're going to add all of those 4 ingredients into one bowl. And we're cooking this over a low heat now. We're going to mix up our soy sesame glaze and really mix it up really well before adding it to the meat-free ground. So if you're cooking 1 package, I would say use about half of this concoction. We're going to mix that. What I love about this glaze is that it has that sweetness, it has those savory notes, so it's sort of a crowd pleaser. If you have kids, if you have picky eaters, they're gonna love this. And it's also gonna add a lot of flavor to this meat-free ground. So when you have guests over, when your kids eat it, they might not even believe that it's plant-based. So after adding that glaze in, we're gonna cook this for about another minute or 2. We just really want to make sure all of that glaze has been soaked up by the meatless ground. And then we've cooked it just a little bit longer so it can dry out a bit. Keep all of those flavors. So now we are going to assemble our protein-packed quinoa bowl. We're going to start with the base of cooked quinoa. And the first thing we're gonna add is that meatless ground. I've had a couple of people try this as I was testing this recipe, and they didn't even know it wasn't ground beef. The flavor of this is simple but delicious. So yeah, I think that's enough. We're also going to add in some freshly sliced cucumbers. That's going to add a bit of freshness to the bowl. We're gonna top our meat-free ground with some chopped green onion. And then to finish out this bowl, we're going to add some purple cabbage. This is gonna add color and crunch. And then finally, we're gonna add in some store-bought kimchi. Now, if you'd like, this isn't necessary, but I do have some Thai basil here. It has a beautiful color. I like to add this to similar style dishes just as a garnish. And voila, that is our bowl. I'm going to give you that 360 view of it before I scarf it down. But again, we have that base of quinoa. Then we have our meat-free ground that was cooked in that soy sesame glaze, topped with green onions, and then paired with cucumbers, kimchi, red cabbage, and then a little bit of Thai basil. Okay, so I gave it a try, and it is just as good as it was when I was testing the recipe. The meatless ground has such a similar texture to typical ground beef, and the flavor of this sesame soy honey glaze is just perfect in this bowl with the red cabbage and the kimchi and the cucumbers and the green onions. It's sort of like a flavor explosion. So I hope you try it. I hope you enjoy it. And thank you for watching my video.
Thanks, Kasim. That looks delicious. Next up is Janene with a meatless Indian kafta.
Hi, my name is Janene Holig, the executive chef of Hot Indian in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Today, I'm gonna be trying something a little different, something still Indian inspired, but not necessarily something we make yet at the restaurant. So I got this cool product we've been working with. It's from Meatless Farms company. It's a meatless, plant-based burger alternative. And we're gonna be doing a kafta, an Indian kafta curry. So I have a whole bunch of different spices, garlic and gingers, some onions, some binders for the meat itself, and then we also have a couple different ingredients that we're going to talk about when we go to build the curry, which is going to kind of be a saucy gravy for the kafta to finish cooking in. Today we're going to be cooking outside. Figured we would grill to give that natural smoky flavor, which is a lot of tandoor and a lot of Indian cooking, and it's really nice out in Minneapolis today. So stick around. I'm going to show you how to mix up the blend of the kafta and then also the curry, and we're going to do it all on the grill. And again, I'll give alternatives for cooking in the house as well. It's just as easy in the oven or the stovetop. So let's get into it. So Indian kafta is typically made with a blend of either beef and lamb or beef or just ground lamb. So there's different varieties kind of everywhere. Okay, and I talked about a lot of different spices. Indian cooking is very heavily spiced, meaning there's just a lot of spices that go into it. It doesn't always mean that it's very, very spicy. So again, here we have our plant-based ground meat product, and we're gonna do some ground grated onion. It's gonna add just moisture and depth of flavor. We're gonna use a binder, an egg. In this recipe, I'm gonna use 4 tablespoons of breadcrumb. You can use chickpea flour if you're going for a gluten-free alternative. Now, ginger garlic paste. That goes right inside as well. 1 tablespoon of fresh mint, 2 tablespoons fresh cilantro. All right, now we get to play with the spice dish. So to this mix, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of garam masala, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, another teaspoon of paprika. I like mine kind of spicy. This is kind of on your own level, but I'm gonna go maybe a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of red peppers, another teaspoon with coriander, and finally about a teaspoon of kosher salt. Okay, now to all this, look at how much stuff is in there. That's beautiful. We're gonna knead it together, get that egg yolk, You really want to mix it thoroughly. You want to have all the flavors in all the bites. All right. So you want it really well mixed. You want to see how it's damp there, so they're not going to dry out. What we have in the cast iron on the grill right now is 1 medium onion and about 2 teaspoons of olive oil. And then we added about 2 tablespoons of garlic ginger paste. And it's just getting heated up now, ready for some more spices. We'll do 1 tablespoon of garam masala, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon turmeric, and 1 teaspoon of coriander. Add about a teaspoon of salt to those. Toast those spices a little bit, stir around. Stir this around for about a minute and let those spices toast up. All of our spices are toasted. Oh yeah, and with the chili, and with the ginger garlic paste and the onions, we're gonna add a tablespoon of tomato paste, 1 chopped serrano chili, with or without seeds. I use with. Again, I like that heat, so I want the heat. So you see I have the flame on it, so it's pretty high, medium to high. Just sweat that out, toast up those seasonings. Okay, to our onions, spices, tomato paste, and chilies, we're gonna add 1.5 cups crushed tomato. Now that we have the tomato in, we're gonna add a cup of whipped yogurt, the fenugreek leaves, and I have about a cup of water. You want to make sure. All right, so we're tempering in a little bit more water. All right. Now I'm going to mix this up and move it over to the non-fire side of the grill, and we're going to bring those meatless kofta meatballs and put them right over the fire. Now we're gonna let those meatless kofta meatballs and the curry simmer a little bit, and then we'll add the kofta right to the curry. Okay, here we have our seasoned and flavored meatless kofta and our rich and creamy kofta curry paste. It's gonna simmer in there for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna serve it with some bread and some rice and see how good it is. Well, that looks beautiful to me. You can see the rich curry gravy around the outside of the meatless kofta. Both of them super packed with flavor. I threw on some frozen paratha. They get nice and crispy and fluffy. We're gonna pull it off and plate it up. And here we have our final product for dishing up. I'm gonna take one of those crispy parathas, fold them in 4s. Come in with that kofta and gravy. I'll go with 3 right off. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, let's finish it off with a little cilantro on top. I cannot wait to try this out. I really enjoyed that chef challenge in cooking with a plant-based meat substitute product, the ground product. I thought that it had much better results than I was anticipating prior to, and when making the product, I loved how we could impart all that different flavor and different spices into the meat mixture and really have that stand out. It wasn't competing against a really strong, fatty meat, so we really got to taste the flavors of the stuff that we added into it as well. It acted a lot like a ground pork, ground beef, ground lamb would, where in terms of when I opened up the kofta, you could see how it was still moist and tender and had the texture that you're looking for some of those plant-based products. So overall, I was really impressed, and I had a lot of fun making it, and I thought it was a challenge to do the kofta on the grill, and we really enjoyed it. I would use the Meatless Farms company again. I would join the challenge again. Thanks for giving us something to do in quarantine. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for including me.
And we have one more recipe from AJ, so let's see what he came up with.
Hi, I'm Chef AJ McCloud. of the Madera Group, Culinary Director for the Tocaya Organica and Toca Madera. Today, I'll be cooking for you a low-carb, meatless chorizo using the Meatless Farm Company's meatless ground, as well as a few other ingredients that I have right here. Poblano pepper, red pepper, we have white onion, some tomato and garlic. We're gonna be using some chorizo spices, as well as 1 chipotle pepper. This one's got a little bit of a kick to it. Come with me over to the stove. All right, we're gonna cook up our product here. We're gonna make this vegan chorizo. So first thing we do, a little bit of olive oil, about a tablespoon. Next thing that's gonna go in, let's go ahead and add our poblano. I'm gonna do the peppers first. They're a little bit harder than the onion and tomatoes, so they're gonna take a little bit longer. They go in first, let's give it a stir. Again, we're gonna use a really good olive oil. Coconut oil also works. Try to get one that doesn't have a lot of coconut flavor, or you're gonna impart too much of that coconut essence into your dish. Next, we're gonna go onions and garlic, and finally our tomato. A little bit of salt. This is pink Himalayan sea salt. Pepper. I like to use cherry pepper and white pepper as a blend inside the same pepper mill. So it's both peppers inside one mill. Now those colors look really great. While we were off camera, I went ahead and browned the Meatless Farm Company's ground meatless. I do that first because it's gonna give us that almost beef-like texture by getting those nice little brown and harder crunchy bits in there. They'll soften up when we get it in with everything, but you wanna go ahead and cook that off first. I would make it a patty, sear it on one side then the other, so it almost looks like a burger, then break it up. And that's exactly how we do it in the restaurant when we make our vegan chorizo. I'm gonna add that product in. You can see it's already been cooked a bit and broken up. Now again, unlike a regular chorizo that you might find in a store, a pork chorizo or a beef chorizo, this has a lot more vegetable in it because we're doing this for a low carb. We're not gonna add a lot of unhealthy fats to it. Great thing about the Meatless Farm Company's meatless ground is it's 21 grams of protein per serving and only about 7 net carbs per serving. So if you're just looking to eat vegan, you've got it. If you're looking to be on a keto diet and you don't want to eat meat all the time, this would fit into your diet on days that you're not eating a lot of net carbs, or if this was going to be your meal for dinner or lunch. We've added those chorizo spices in, and the last thing to go in is 1 chipotle pepper. Let's do about half on this actually, because 1 is for the whole recipe, and like I said, this is a half recipe, right? And we take that chipotle pepper in adobo, take it out of the can, just 1, and chop it up by hand. Looks good, smells delicious. We're gonna take this over to the table where I first met all you fine people, and we're gonna put this together and try it. All right, let's put this thing together here. So first thing I have here is a slice of jicama. So you peel the jicama, slice it super thin. If you don't have a deli slicer at home, which I assume most people don't, you can buy these in the store. 2 of these are about 1 net carb. So this is keeping us super low carb on this. We've got our Meatless Farm Company chorizo that we made. Right here, we did a smoked arbol salsa. You can buy this if you don't want to make it. We obviously made these, and a tomatillo avocado salsa. So we're gonna have 2 salsas, 2 types of onions. White onion with a little bit of cilantro, and then a pickled red onion. So first things first, we take our green salsa. We're just gonna put a little bit and drag it right across that tortilla like that. Next, our nice vegan chorizo. I'm going to lay it across this way. We're literally just gonna go the opposite direction that we did our line so we can see a little bit of that salsa poking out from underneath. Followed by our smoked arbol salsa. That we're just make a little bit of lime, a little bit. This is spicy, and this has already got a little bit of heat to it. So we want to make sure we can see each one of the elements that we put down. So especially if you're making this for some friends and you want to impress them. A little bit of white onion to get that fresh onion crunch. It's got cilantro cut up into it already. And we're gonna follow that by just a touch of pickled red onion on the top. It's gonna give a little bit of depth to it and color. There we have it, our low carb, vegan chorizo taco. I'm gonna fold this thing up and I'm gonna take a bite. Oh man, that is delightful. You guys didn't have to excuse me because I have to get on camera and enjoy this a little bit more and make a few more of these for me and the rest of the crew. Thank you so much. Hopefully you enjoy this at home.
Thanks, AJ. I think that these recipes can show us that working with some meatless products isn't necessarily as hard as some chefs might think. But Mason, you're the expert, so why don't you give us a few tips on how chefs can incorporate Meatless Farm into their own menus?
Yeah, so my advice would be go bold. These products are pretty much a blank canvas. A lot of the time, traditionally with beef, you have to fight off a lot of the water loss or things that happen during the cooking process. With Meatless Farm, you can truly throw flavors at the product and watch them, get incorporated beautifully. So I think that the sky's the limit on creativity with these products, and I'd love to see the way that fast casual restaurants figure out how to incorporate them into their menus.
So if our viewers or other restaurateurs want to try out the Meatless Farm product, can they get it at the grocery store? Are you guys on restaurant menus yet? Where are you at with all that?
Yeah, so we're always looking for great new partners. I'm always here as a helping hand. And if you ever wanted to go and try the product, just maybe for your family, you can check us out at any Whole Foods, as well as some regional supermarkets. If you have any questions or inquiries about it, you can check us out at meatlessfarm.com.
So that about wraps up our virtual chef challenge for today. But if any of our viewers are going to test some of these recipes or create their own using Meatless Farm products, we'd love to see some photos or some videos using the hashtag virtual chef challenge. So Mason, I just want to thank you again for helping us and for all your advice. We are excited to see where you guys end up.
Thank you so much, everybody. And to the three chefs, those recipes looked absolutely amazing. I was very happy to see that despite being so far apart, we're able to come together and make something incredible.
And speaking of coming together, we hope you'll all join us for the Fast Casual Executive Summit, which is virtual this year, October 20th through 21st. And you can sign up free at fastcasualsummit.com. And until then, have a great day.